Chama chest, chama, chama wingapo. Waiting for some people to get on because I said 2 and it's 2:09. I'm on Color Folks time. Y'all already know. Yeah, I'm usually on time though. All right. To NC, you from North Carolina? Okay, good. So we're just gonna pick up from what we left off the other day with the indigenous surnames. I hope y'all can hear me. Can you hear me? You said yours is McQueen from North Carolina. Peace. Oh, thank you. Thank you. All right, I see a couple of people are on now. Let's get started. Loud and clear. Good. It's kind of echoing in here, so I'm just making sure. So last time we left, get my notes. Last time we left off with the Algonquian surnames from the Family Tree DNA project. And now we're going to get more into the North Carolina names. Both North Carolina and Virginia have a tight relationship, especially dealing with the indigenous people because it is all one landmass, but it was all together at one point in time. Wasn't in Virginia, wasn't North Carolina. It was different empires or chiefdoms, kingdoms, whatever you like to call it. So that is what it is. And there's certain names, like the ones I mentioned yesterday, specifically Chavis and Gibson, the Bradbys, Cumbos and the Freemans. They were both in Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina, and they moved around a lot. They had a lot of children. So that's your lineage? Okay. Yeah, they had a lot of children. As we say in Virginia, children. They sure had a lot of children. So we're going to start off focusing on the Tuscarora and the Lumbee names. Gibson and Chavis. Yes, I'm Gibson too. Let's see. I always get too close to my head or something. But I'm going to start off with the Lumbee and Tuscarora names, and then I'm going to try to get into more of the North Carolina names, but most of them are associated with the Lumbee as well. Y'all know how y'all Lumbees did. He had married to a lot of different groups. So basically the Lumbee are, you don't know about the Lumbee, they are an indigenous group in North Carolina, but they consist of multiple tribes. Tribes from North Carolina, tribes from Virginia, tribes even from up in the Ohio Valley as well. You said your neighbor was a Lumbee? Yeah, so the Lumbees are kind of notorious in North Carolina. So we're going to start with the Lumbee and Tuscarora. Many of those people intermarried. At one time, they were kind of enemies, and due to the wars and the treaties, they started to mix together. All right, so we're going to start with the Tuscarora and Lumbee names. So they are mixed triracial. Some of them, everybody's not mixed though. Let's start. Allen, Basket, Blunt. What is this? Dandridge, McCain, Charles, Cornelius, Dennis. Those sound like first names someday. George. So sometimes indigenous people, they would use first names to pass on the surname. You know, we were different. Our surnames used to be based on our clan names within indigenous groups. Remember, your Bear Clan, Fox Clan, your surname would be that clan. So it'd be Bear in whatever language or whatever. Yes, please hit that like button. Thank you. That's what I'm talking about. Please share it out now so other people can come on and ask questions while it's live, because people keep complaining they don't know when it's live, but I can't come on a certain hour. So, but yeah, back to the surnames, the first names. You said Cohen. I'm gonna get into it. Okay. Let me get back to the names. I was trying to break down the first names as surnames, because sometimes, especially If there was a parent not present, they might take on the first name of the parent as a last name. So maybe somebody had a baby by George and they would name their son uh, uh, John George and put George as a surname. That's just for a reference if you're looking at genealogy and you see these weird surnames. Howitt, Jack, Lighthouse, Miller, Mitchell, Neetop. A Neetop or Neetap is an Algonquian word. Neetap, you can use that as thank you, and it can also mean friend. So Neetap. Owen, Pug, Roberts, Rogers, Seneca, Socket, Taylor, Tuftick, Walker, Wiggins, and Willis. Okay, I'm looking at my notes. Yeah, I did say Neetap as friend. Some of the names are adopted from European friends or traders. And like I was saying before, these aren't slave names. They didn't get it from the slave master. Even though some of these families were enslaved, they might have done a trade with maybe, let me use McCain. They did a trade with John McCain, not the senator. They might have did a trade with John McCain, and he might be an Irishman or Scotsman, and they like him. He's a friend of the family. So if they're doing an interaction with Europeans, they might take on one of their friends' surname just to make the business transaction. And those names got passed down as well. Or on another case, the Irish or Scotsman could have married an Indigenous woman. Then that child married an Indigenous person. And they kind of mixed out of that bloodline, but they still kept the surname. Let me see what you said. You said Hurst or Jackson. Jackson's on the list. We're going to get down to it. But that was specifically mostly the Tuscarora names right there. 44% of the Tuscarora and Lumbee surnames match with each other. And just like I explained earlier, I think because they intermarried. And they all didn't intermarry with Tuscarora or Lumbee, but that name could have came from Pamunkey people, could have came from Chirwa people, any other group, Sapani people. All right. And this list here are some of the people who were free people of color in North Carolina on their list. You said your wife is a McCain. She's white, but she's suing, you said? But the marriage is a Griffin, Sue. Oh, okay. I don't know why I thought you was a female, Love Legacy. I thought you were a woman. All right, let me get something to drink. All right, so we're going to get into these names. These are free people of color and considered North Carolina Indians. You said, you go, girl. What you talking about? Let me see. I'm all the way down to the... So your great-grandmother raised you and she died when she was 25. She was indigenous. Oh, wow. Pelito. Okay, let me get back into this. And I don't know why this thing's so close. If I don't, even with my glasses on, if I don't have this close, I can't read what y'all saying. So I like to read it real time. You know about the gun. We're going to get into it. I don't know if gun is on this list, but I've heard of them. All right, so let's get into the list. Yeah, I got the glass so I can read. What you talking about? Okay, you trying to be cute and read off paper. Like, I definitely can't read off paper with my contacts. I can look at stuff far away. Okay, let's get into the list. Alito. Okay, Alston, Anderson, Bullock, Chapuk, and that's an indigenous word, it's an Algonquin word. Bowie, Brantley, Butler, Dixon, Adams, Brown, Chavis, Fish, Folsom, Irby, Jones, Jacobs, Jordan, James, Israel, Jackson, Jeffries, Johnson, Kersey, Camper, Kelly, Kirby, Knight, Knight or Knights with the S, Lamb, Lambert, Langley, Larkins, Lawson, Layton, Leach, Lee, Lennon, like John Lennon, Lewis, Lloyd, Locklear, Long, Love, Lovelace, Lovett, Lowry, Lucas, Lumbee, Maynard, Malcolm, like Malcolm X, Manuel, Marnes, Martin, Maxwell, Mayo, or Mayo, McAllister is another one of those names, like I explained. Brooks is on the Virginia one, Maestro. Go look at the Virginia one. Brooks is on the Virginia one. Okay, I said McAllister, McAndy, McAldy, McCaffrey, McCall, McCutter, or Color, McCullough, McDonald. Right, there's so many people with these same names. McDougal, McLean, McNeil, McGee, McPherson, Mercer, Miller, Mills, like Stephanie Mills, Monroe, Moody, Morrison, Moore, with the E or without the E, Murray, Nansemon, Neal, Wassa Samsaw. You said that's an Algonquian name, so I'm pretty sure those were Algonquin people. You said there's a list in the NYC for Curry. I was just talking to somebody with the Curry surname before, and they said that Phoenix Moon gave them some information on Curry. I don't know much about him, but I'm sure you could probably ask her some more information. All right, let's get back to the list. I got the rest of the list on the computer. Nielsen, Neville, Newsom, Newton. Mason was on the Virginia one. Nichols, Nobles, Nolan, Noriega, Norris, Norton, Oberry. Has two different spellings, with the apostrophe O and without. Odom, like Lamar Odom. Let's see. Olsen, like the Olsen twins. Orozco, Ortiz. Osborne, Overstreet, Overton. Owens, or Owen. Oxidine, which is a very popular Lumbee name. Pace. Paget, Padgett. Yeah, I said Lewis. Payne, Panko, Parham, Parham, Parker, Pates, Patrick, Paul, Pavey, Perry. You said C. Lewis. That's probably somebody's. It's probably an what do you call it? An era when they recorded the name. It's probably just Lewis. So sometimes people, when the census people or somebody else records it a certain way, maybe one of the male heads, then the name changes. So yes, we already said Adams. Yeah, Payne. It doesn't matter how it's spelled. In genealogy, the spelling changes a lot depending on who's recording it. A lot of people were not literate as we are today. So people spelled stuff all wrong, even within the same family. Yeah, West is on the Virginia one. West is on the Virginia one. from the other day. Yeah, look up the most, when you're looking for genealogy, sometimes you're gonna have to misspell stuff to get to get somewhere because things are recorded any type of way. All right, so we're back at Perry, Peavy, Petey, like the Petey tribe, Pepper, like salt and pepper, Perez, Perkins, Perry. Now, some of these names you see that are Spanish, and that's because the Spanish were in the Carolinas before the English was. You said C. Lewis is Lewis. It could be. You said you hadn't seen any more on C. Yeah, I haven't either. I've seen someone with that surname, but not when doing genealogy work. All right. The Chathams were on the Virginia one. They're from Virginia. I'm not sure. I don't know if I mentioned them on that one, but they are from Virginia. Where was I at? Perkins, like Sam Perkins, Perry. Why am I keep naming these old basketball players? Petty, Petskill. I don't know what that is. Petsky. It's spelled Petske. Piva, Pharaoh, Pierce. I'm trying to refrain from saying basketball player names. Pinkham. All right, I don't know about it. I'm gonna kick this phone over. Hold on. I don't know why everybody wants to call when I'm on on here. You said apply to the Saponi. You said you're out of Lumbee and Coweta. All right, I'm back at Pierce, Peachbeck, Pinkham, Pittman, Pone, like a pone, which is cornbread, and Algonquin. You said Cohen. I'm not sure about Cohen. I was always taught that Cohen was a Jewish surname. And remember, there was a lot of Jewish people, which they don't talk about, who did a lot of business here. And some of them were slave masters as well. So the family could have got a name through business. Porter, Poston, Prather, Prevet, Prescott, Presley, like Elvis Presley. Privat or Private. Prine, Prine, Pruitt, Pug, Perkins again. Y'all, I'm a bit tired of this phone. Hold on one second. Oh my gosh. Oh, thank you. You say you're Mississippi Shada. Quick, Quinto, Ragsdale, Rains, Raleigh, Ranson. I think somebody asked about Ranson. Or Ransom. Ratley, Ratcliffe, I'm sorry. Reed, Reeves, Reagan. Renner, Revel, or Revels, or Reveal, Revill. Reynolds, Rames, Rye, Richardson, Riley, Roberts, Robertson, Rogers, spelled multiple ways, Roland, Roller, Ruse, Roland, like Kelly Rowland, Roser, Runnels, Russell, Sampson, Sanderson, Santee, like the tribe, Sarvis, like Jarvis, Sawyer, Scoogan, Scott, Sealy, Seals, Sealy like Malik Sealy, Okay, let me start with the basketball players. Shepherd, Sheriff, like the sheriff of Nottingham. Shook, Shotter, Shoemate, Sickler, Simon, and Simmons, like Russell Simmons. Sizemore, Skipper, Slate, Smiling, like you smile. Smith, Spalding, like the basketball. Yeah, I know my basketball, right? I don't like this new school basketball, but I know that old school NBA and the ABA. Smith, which is very popular, one. It's like 480 Smith Indian families in North Carolina. Spence, Springsteen, Squires, like I told y'all, John Squires, the chief of the Matamusket. St. John, Stacks, Stager. Now some of these names, like Spence and Stacks, you can have different surnames from that or been changed, like Spencer or Stackhouse. I think somebody asked about Stackhouse before. Um, Stager, Stanley, Stanner, Stapleton, like Stapleton Projects, the Wu-Tang's from. Stevens, Stewart, Stocks, Storm, Strickland, like Rod Strickland, Stewart, uh, I don't know how to pronounce this one, Sturdeviant, let me spell it out. I've seen this one many times in genealogy, I just can't pronounce it. Sturdivant. Georgia's hard to research tribes because of the Creek Confederacy. That's very true. They destroyed a lot of information in Georgia. I think Pullen was on the Virginia one. Um, Saku, this one is an indigenous name. It looks Siouan. Saku, I'm trying to pronounce it right. Sakukas. And it's spelled Suchockkas. Sutton, like Rip Shop Sutton, my homie, the rapper. Sweat and Sweet are the same family. Just like I said, the spellings. So if someone's like Q Sweat and someone's last name is Sweet, those are the same family. They come from the same root. Sweeten, Sweeting with a G. Tadlock, Tally, Taylor, Terry, Teeter, Thatcher, like Margaret Thatcher. Thomas, Thompson, Tickle, Todd, Toller, Townsend, Tudor, Turner. Turner is one of the most popular ones. Turner is also on the Virginia list. Harrison, I think Harrison's on the Virginia list. You said that's from New Jersey. Oh, okay. See, I knew I seen that name before. You said from the NBA draft. Um, Tuscarora is one. Tudor, Tyler, like Aisha Tyler. Tyner, Usury, Valentine. I think Ron Valentine L asked me if was his name on there. It's on here on the New York, I mean, not the New York, North Carolina list. Sorry. Sorry, Ron. Vaughn, Waccamaw. Somebody just asked about that. Waccamaw is one of the surnames on here for the Waccamaw tribe. Wade, like Dwayne Wade. Walden, Walker. Someone was just asking about Walker. Wallace, Walters, Whitman, Waltman, Ware or Wares. You said your grandfather's Ned Logan from Buckingham. Oh, okay. Yeah, my family's in Buckingham County, Virginia, too. Somebody asked about Harrison again. I think that's on the Virginia list. It wasn't on this one. Wade is one, yeah, like D. Wade. Um, Warax. Now, this one looks like an indigenous name. Spelled Wariax. Warwick, like Dionne Warwick. Watson. Wearns or Wearns. There's two different spellings. Wearins, and there's Wearnes. Weatherly, Webb, spelled both ways, with two B's or one B. Wherewith, West. West was also on the Virginia list. I can't see all these comments. I'm trying to answer some of the questions. You said Harrison was on the Virginia list. I said Harrison's on the Virginia list, not Sapani. Dixon's on the Virginia list. Yes, Barnett is on this list. Okay. Wharton, Wheeler, White. Somebody asked about White. Whitehead. White was one of the most popular ones in North Carolina as well. Whitmore. Wiggins again. Wilcox. Wilkerson. Wilkins. Williams. All right, I'm trying to refrain from saying a basketball player's name. Williamson. Willis. Wilson. Winfrey. Like Oprah Winfrey. Wynn. Wynn is also a Virginia one, as well as Williams and Willis. Wodell. Or Wodell. There's two different ones. Wofford. Wofford. Wood, like Madeline Woods. So we say Wood with the S or without the S. That's a popular one too. Woodall. Woodle. Woods again. Woolfork. Fork. Like a fork you eat. Woolfork. You said private equals fierce warrior. Yes, that's on the list. Lito Crew Cut. Okay. War Rocks. Worax. I think Dunn was on the Virginia. A lot of the ones that's not on here were on the Virginia list. Or it might be on the South Carolina, Georgia list. We'll see. Workman, Works, Wright, Win again. Spelled two different names. Orboro, and Young. Young is the last one on this list. Peace, Gretchen. You're always on my lives, Gretchen. You're so dedicated. and love legacy. I love y'all. Okay. You said some sound like natives as opposed to original. Yeah, some of the names are just straight from the native or indigenous language. Some of them are adaptations of words in the indigenous languages, and then others were adopted names or names through intermarriage. Right is probably suing. Yeah, see, with the thing with the North Carolina Indians, a lot of them were more mixed than other areas because it was based on the laws then. They had a lot of free people of color, and they had a lot of laws to the benefit of free people of color. So people hitch their wagons and they load their family and go to North Carolina, especially from Virginia area and other areas that had a lot of issues with oppression from colonizers. And then some of them they were more loose with interracial marriages too. And like I told y'all on the other video, a lot of the Pamunkey men who were married to European women moved to North Carolina, and they created the tribe like the Lumbee and Tuscarora and, Sapanis. All right, and so somebody asked whether this list is from DNA Tree family tree DNA, I'm sorry. Family tree DNA. They're very mixed. A lot of tribes joined the Catawba Confederacy, so they say they're suing, but they're not. Right. It was something to do with that. And then several tribes got wiped out by doing that, like the Tornadoes. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. They were a bigger tribe than the Sapani, but they basically got ate. They turned to food. They kept losing wars, and the Westos kind of whooped them up as well. So get a good look at so-called, whoops, let me see, so-called Caucasian folks in Winchester, Virginia, off of 81. Just I'm near Winchester too. Yeah, they're a little weird out there. So you're trying to say they dark? You said Harrison is not mixed out of NYC. Well, I keep saying NYC, NC. So Sapani is the mixed tribe. Sapani and Lumbee are pretty mixed at this point, due to the confederacies and association. Lumbee had association with the Cherokee. So a lot of people were trying to jump over under certain titles for treaties. And the Lumbee, they used to be, what tribe were they? I forget the name of the tribe they were originally. Oh, Croatan. They were the Croatan, which was basically, Croatan is just the name of a Pamunkey town, which is in the area now called North Carolina, right? So they basically were Pamunkey people. They spoke the Pamunkey language. If you compare Croatan to Powhatan language, it is the exact same language. So those people, due to the wars and the enslavement by groups like the Westo, they joined under the Cherokee because the Cherokee were being enslaved by the Westo. They joined under the Cherokee name to come up with treaties to protect themselves. You said you traveled from DMV to an outlet 10 years ago. Oh, which outlet? Because they got an outlet out, not in West. Did they have one in Winchester? And one in Loudoun County. Tony Stoley on this list. Maybe on the South Carolina or the Georgia list. And even if they're not on any list, that does not mean your family is not indigenous. It could be indigenous woman married a Stoney or Tony. Or they could have just made it up, right? Like the person could be like Solid Stone in their language. That could be their name. And then they changed it to Stony in English because that's what people did. So we're going to get into more of those later. You guys got any more questions? We try to do the South Carolina list. There might be some more North Carolina ones. Yeah, the Pullen and the Prevet was on this list, I believe. Boykin was on the Virginia. I can't read all those. Nash, you said Wilson was on this list. Nash is very popular in Virginia. I know that. Chatham County, Croatan. I'm not familiar with the county. The Croatans were on the coastline of North Carolina. It was Pamunkey Town. It's not even far from Virginia. Like all of it was together. Those people got pushed out to southern North Carolina, to Robeson County in that area, and they became the Lumbees. And they intermarried with the Tuscarora and the Sapanis and Cheras and other groups that came through there, and Cherokees. You said look out for scammers. People will change information for what? Who's scamming? Corey. David Corey. How can I find out what tribe a Logan family is from in Virginia? Yeah, Butler was on the list. I'm not sure. That's why I suggest everyone to do their genealogy. You should just do your genealogy. That's the only answer. Somebody said, so anyone charging for free information. All information is free. You're paying for the teacher's time and their research. Everyone don't have time to go to libraries, so you can't say someone's scamming about free information. I don't know who specifically you're talking about. Exactly, labor and free. Y'all want to go to work for free? I don't understand. Yeah, not me. I'm definitely not scamming nobody because I'm not getting paid barely. But other people, you can't blame a professor or teacher for teaching stuff that's free in the library and charging because you're charging for their time and labor. I understand what you're saying because there is a lot of people scamming out here, and Phoenix has exposed some of those people on her channel. So y'all check out Phoenix Moon's channel. Her and Chief Warhorse were exposing some people who were scamming. But that's not what we're doing today. And I already told y'all can find these sources on the internet, and it's free. Don't know if you have the names covered. What? If you have covered this already, but at the times we took on those surnames for commerce and trade, were some of these Europeans melanated? Oh yes, yes, yes. People know on my Facebook know that I have talked about the melanated Europeans many times. Some of them are in my family. Some of those people married into these tribes. In fact, shout out to Phoenix Moon. Y'all check out her channel. She's back for her new season. She took a break. But yes, some of these people, and then some of these surnames are associated with those melanated Europeans, or what some people call Moors. Um, and some of those people were here pre-Columbus, which nobody talks about. Not many people talk about it. They had treaties with some of the tribes, especially the Powhatan Nation. We had a treaty with a group of quote-unquote Moors, and they actually fought in the Anglo-Powhatan Wars. And there used to be a place in Virginia that had the suits that they wore because they had the little suits and the fez or whatever, alongside with the Powhatan warrior men wore because they were fighting on the same team against the Europeans. Um, and then I'm also, speaking of those melanated Europeans, I'm going to do another video. I have this long list of names of these indentured servants who are said to be European but are described with dark skin and brown skin and, being called mulattoes and Negroes and things. So I'm going to break those resources out. I just got a lot of stuff, and it's easier for me to just jump on here, but sometimes I got to edit, and that's what takes a long time. You got any more questions? Berbers from North Africa. Some of them were mixed in with the Europeans, right? The European ones, the Moors. Any suggestion on how to move forward when you hit the wall of ancestors' marriage bonds? Listing their marriage bonds, listing some of ancestors as slaves. So you're saying they listed slaves on the marriage bonds? Can you make that clear what you're saying? Because a lot of people can't even find marriage bonds for their family, so that's interesting that they're on the marriage bonds. Well, most likely, if they're saying that those people were enslaved, and this is a first-hand account from the people, then those people most likely were enslaved, but you're going to have to find out who had their contracts. So you're going to have to look through that. And sometimes you have to use those surnames. But many times for my research, the slave master would have one surname, and then the slaves would have all different types of surnames. I've never seen a plantation with, say, it's the slave master's last name is Evans, and all the enslaved people are called, their surname is Evans. I've never seen that at all. They either don't have a surname listed, or they have their own surname. Now, a lot of times, those people taking on these quote unquote slave master surnames happened during the emancipation, and when the Freedmen Bureau came to interview people to give them marriage licenses and things like that, or work permits, then they just made up any name. You had a choice. You can choose your own name, use the one you already had, or just make up something or use the slave master's name. So it is not the default like they're trying to make it out. Certain genealogists and certain historians, those what they call Africanas and Africana studies scholars would like to present that narrative that everybody has it comes from slaves and they all their names come from slave masters, which is not true. What records exist for African Americans in 1880 through 1850? There's a lot of lots and lots of records. This is the biggest misconception with doing quote unquote African American genealogy or Indigenous American genealogy is that there's the records don't exist, but there's tons of records, even ones that are now recovered from these courthouse fires, quote unquote. Tons of records. You just got to follow your family. You can't be going by these narratives anymore. We've got to throw those narratives out the window because everybody's family is unique, right? There's some instances that we have similarities, but you can't, when you're doing genealogy, you can't go by assumptions. You're going to have to look and find the facts. Right. Don't assume that these people were slaves because you're not going to get far. Even the person who said those people were listed on there as slaves, you can assume that they are correct by what they're saying, but then you would also want to continue to research, even if you believe what they're saying. For instance, I had an ancestor. Everybody in the family was saying was a slave. They tried to say that she had her children by her slave master. They had her name incorrect. Going by her name is Clarabelle. They're going by her nickname as saying that that was her birth name, which it wasn't, which had me mixed up for years listening to these people. But they tried to say she was an African slave. Come to find out, she was born 30 years after emancipation, so there's no way she could be slaves. And her family came from the Brooks, the free people of color. So they told me that she was enslaved, but she was never enslaved, nor was her family members. So you can't make these assumptions. Even if you're interviewing elders, you use those as a source, and then you continue to research and find the proof. Okay, you gotta have proof for everything. Right, many people were born free people of color. Right, she was born a free person. Her parents were born free parents. Her grandparents were born free people, and I found the information to support it. So you just gotta keep digging, right? You said you don't believe the records even listed slaves on the marriage bond. I'm just trying to get beyond because yeah, didn't they have to pay for this marriage bond? Aren't those bonds through the government, through banks as well? So how did they get all this money for a marriage bond? Speed? No, I haven't come across the name Speed. Jesse Jackson came up with it. I think he popularized it. He didn't come up with it, but he did popularize it. Yes, uh, Courtney was on the Virginia, and Butler was on the Virginia list. Yes, yeah, most of the elders don't know about African, but these quote unquote elders in my family swore up and down this woman was African. She comes from the Brooks Indigenous family, which were free people of color, and we're Powhatan people. So you can't just assume we weren't identified as such before, right? Definitely not. You called somebody African around here, it might have been trouble. And I don't mean the person's self-hating. It means they're not African. How can you know what I'm saying? If somebody's saying that you're Canadian. Somebody called me Canadian. I'm like, I ain't no dang on Canadian. I ain't never been to Canada. My family's not from Canada. So, don't mean you hate yourself. Not saying some people don't hate themselves, but they hate themselves for other reasons, not because of no type of category they're put in. So when I was a little boy, I couldn't call us black, and I'm 50. Yeah, they didn't. Some people in the country still don't like that. Anyone last name White from Georgia? White was on the list. White was just on the North Carolina list. Do you have any advice for people in Jamaica who are searching? Jamaica, if you're in Jamaica, it'd probably be easier than someone outside of Jamaica searching for Jamaican ancestry. But Jamaica, you guys have good records at your archives, allegedly. And the British still have a lot of y'all records too. If you check the National Archives for the UK, some of those records are in there. You look through the register. If the people are enslaved, you're going to have to look for certain estates or probate records from those plantations. And then in Jamaica, everybody wasn't enslaved either. I told you guys before about this woman, quote unquote African American woman, who descend from Ethiopians who were in the Caribbean. They were free people. And they had the surname Taylor. You wouldn't know they were Ethiopian because the name was Taylor. And Taylor was their profession. They were tailors. And they were free people who got paid to tailor clothing for these plantations. You're just going to have to rewatch it when it goes off. All right, people be in their feelings. You can't, when you're doing genealogy, you can't make assumptions about yourself, and you can't be in your feelings about what you discover. All right? You might discover something. I know, and my cousin Cheetah Paw was just discussing when I made a comment about a certain group of people, the Melungeons, descending from quote unquote Moors, right? The male paternal line for most of them are from Moors. People are going to get in their feelings. Like, we have this whole thing, I don't know, understand aboriginals versus the Moors. Most of the time we're talking about similar stuff. People are allowed to have their own belief about certain things or whatever. But what I'm saying is, you can, just because you feel a certain way about that group, don't mean you should deny your ancestors who might be Moors, right? That's all I'm saying. It don't mean to listen to people talking crazy BS. Okay, that's something different. You don't have to listen to them, but your ancestors, don't be like, okay, my ancestors are not who they are because I have an issue with somebody else who's talking stupid on the internet, you know? And just like back in the day, people had that issue with their European ancestry, their pale, their assumptions that those people were pale, for one. But like a lot of Pan Africans be like, I'm not gonna acknowledge my European ancestry because I hate Europeans or whatever. But those people, that DNA is inside you. It makes up who you are. That doesn't mean you have to accept people's behavior or their oppression or whatever. You don't have to accept that at all. But your ancestors are who they are. You said only, please stop with this. Only Christians have surnames stuff. That's not true. That is not true. Right, Europeans were also swarthy and dark skinned, exactly. The melanated Europeans. And that's what a lot of those Pan-Africans, because they didn't do the research, they did not realize. But it's like in the same breath, they'll claim the dark skinned Europeans, and then they'll be like, I don't want to accept European blood, because they're assuming that their European blood is from pale slave masters, which is not the case all the time. And even if it was from a pale person, sometimes those people were slaves. They were working on the plantation with that ancestor and they got married. Or they were indentured servants with that ancestor. Okay, so that's the whole misconception with European ancestry. All those European ancestors were not pale. And even if they were pale, they were not all in positions of power. Okay. Let me see if I try to read some of y'all questions. Right, the European royalty were dark. He said Boykin's DNA says when people were in Virginia, and some went to Jamaica and later to Dominican Republic somewhere. Yeah, D. Boykins, watched the Virginia video. I talked about that information and about the indigenous people being shipped over there as slaves from the war, so prisoners of war, basically. I think Foster was in a Virginia video, those two videos. Um, a whole nother thing. I might do the class on tracing West Indian genealogy. I'm about to say DNA. It's very similar to Jamaican one. You have to start with the registers or the local archives mainly, and then you can check the British ones because pretty much most of the Caribbean that the people who migrate here come from the British ruled islands. You said Indians in Sierra Leone. Yep. You said from Concord Baptist. You would have to contact those churches. You said the family was married in 1847. If your family was married in 74, most likely their marriage records would be in the Library of Virginia because they have records from, I think, 1864 on up because they claim a fire burnt the earlier ones, but now somebody mysteriously donated a whole bunch of records, which were not burnt, they were stolen or hidden intentionally. Yeah, they were burning, they claimed they were burning a lot of church records, but really they stole them. And the ones that they were burning the records because they were trying to steal land from the indigenous people who had the land patterns or who had come back and bought their ancestral land. Um, I found out one of my ancestors who had this land for a long time. His grandfather actually has the original land pattern for this land in Virginia, but he was given the land by his father, and a fire happened at this courthouse allegedly. So this ancestor was smart enough to have a copy of his deed at his home. So after the fire, they tried to act, a lot of the people of color lost their land. He came back with his deed and he had that recertified by the court to make sure that they had his deed on record. And most of the other ones that I saw were Caucasian people. And who knows if those records were even real or not, but this person, he has his records, and then some of those records have been recovered. So I saw that his ancestor had the original pattern for that land. And the land is called Mango Hick, which is an Algonquian Powhatan word. All right. It's subjugation of history. Right. So then they claim they burned these places, and then magically records are found because some Caucasian family want to make sure their land is claimed. So you got to bring out all the records. You can't just bring out some. He said Franklin, North Carolina, deliberately burned their records due to collecting dust a few years ago. Yet they do not want they don't want people to come back and claim the land, for one. Are Susa and South Africa connected to indigenous people, Americans, or the Maroons in Jamaica? I'm not sure. I gotta ask my Susa friends. But if you look at my video on the Nottoway and the Westover manuscripts, they do compare them to the Hottentots. They compare the Nottoway to the Hottentots of South Africa, which are the Susha people. They say they looked like them. We said almost doubt they had real deeds because they couldn't own land in the South. Yep. He said, I'm working on my genealogy for my gun side. Do you think looking through indentures from DC will help me go back further? What kind of indentures are you speaking of? Because a lot of times the counties have their own records of these indentures. I'm not sure what's in DC. Um, a lot of the DC stuff is digital at this point. They have some books, but the books are either specifically to your family surname, or they are general books for like general genealogies of Virginia or a certain county, or like the Choctaw rolls or the Creek rolls, Creek Freeman records. So, you know, it's a lot of stuff. I would go to the specific county or to the Library of Virginia. If you're doing research on Virginia, your first stop should be the Library of Virginia. And you can call them as well if you can't get there. But they have some digitalized records, but it's not all there. Uh, to do the census for us get money in our areas. The census is to give certain counties and districts money to determine how much money they get. That's what the point of the census is. Or for tribes, certain tribes to get money if they're BIA. Oh, thank you. I like my Versace glasses. Get the census notary. Yeah, so a lot of these records, you're gonna have to. They're not gonna flat out say your ancestor's Indian or whatever. Sometimes they do. They shock you. I found one ancestor that said Black Indian on it. So sometimes they're gonna say it, but most of the time, it's not gonna say that. And that shows you right there that the quote unquote black people were quote unquote Indians, and with these misnomers and labels, they put them all together because it is a misnomer. People are their tribe and their family. They're not no color or whatever. Yeah, Brunswick are Lumbees. I think there's actually a Brunswick. There's a Brunswick, Virginia, and there's one in Carolinas and one in Georgia. I'm not sure if that's named after the families. Okay, guys, any more last questions? Because I can't, some of y'all got to repeat these questions because I cannot see them. They flipping, they flipping past. They flipping fast so fast. You said Cuffytown and Chesapeake. Oh, that's very interesting. You know, the Cuffees of Cuffytown and Chesapeake are related to the Shinnecock Cuffees. A lot of them descend from the Cuffy men because they were sailors and they've come down to Chesapeake, and they might have already had a wife up in Shinnecock, or they got a wife down in Chesapeake. But at that time, the women didn't know about it. You're Cuffy? Yeah, the women didn't know about it. So genealogists in Virginia are now coming out with a lot of that information from their clients, connecting the Cuffees of New York to the Cuffees of Virginia. So Coleman was on the Virginia list. Hotskin, I didn't see Hotskin. You said you haven't taken a DNA test. And you have cousins that match the Nansemond and the Haiwa and Ochinichi bands of the Pawnee. See, all those people are intermixed. So the Nansemond, the Haiwa, some of those people, I know, I have a cousin who is related to all those tribes. So at a certain point in the late 1800s, early 1900s, the people were just trying to keep the blood pure, as they say, and marry other known indigenous families. They don't care what tribe it was associated with. Even enemy tribes were intermarrying just to keep that identity together. Powell was on the Virginia list. Blunt, I think Blunt was on the Virginia list. But like I said, a lot of people in North Carolina migrated from Virginia. So all Indians trip. They used to say, what did the old people say? You got the Indian, that burning Indian temper. That's what they used to say about my Anderson family. Anderson's got a temper. That's from the Indian blood. They said the boiling, what they say, boiling Indian blood. Let's see. You said your second grandma is from Caswell, Virginia? No, Caswell County, North Carolina, and were slaves. Well, if there's only three, how old are you? If you were like 40 and your third grandparents were slaves, I don't know if that's accurate. So I don't think they were enslaved at that time. Yeah, Jackson's on both Virginia and the North Carolina list. You said, how can I get a list of all the clans? I don't know if that list existed. Clans in Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama. You maybe be able to get the tribe. I know Chief Crew Cut was selling the maps with all the tribes and confederacies at one time. So you might have to go and check with him on his page. Go to Chief, I guess his page is Chief Crew Cut on here, or Crew Cut Bridges on Facebook. Taylor is on both lists. Let's see. Or Barn here, so Thompson's on both lists. I don't know about Barn Hills. I didn't see them. Butler's on both lists, and Gothany is on the Virginia. Yeah, hot-blooded Indian. Lumbees are really Cherokee who did not want to be associated with the dark-skinned Cherokee. Well, all of them aren't Cherokee. Like I said, if y'all were on here earlier, Nielsen, I told y'all about what happened. Oh, I can't read all these names. What happened with the Croatan having to go under the Cherokee name for treaties and protection, and to be able to keep their land and identity. How do you feel about white tribal members that are 1/20th Aboriginal? I mean, they still by blood. It's totally different than someone who paid $5 to join. If they're respectful, they're about the culture. Because some of us, even when we were quote unquote African Americans, still had quote unquote white looking cousins. They were still your family. That doesn't mean that those people who look like that should be denying us of our heritage. That's the issue I have. If people are true to their culture and their family, that's a whole different story than people who are pretending and people who are denying other people. Parish, I think I saw that on the Virginia. I'm not sure if I put that on the Virginia list. Let me see. Need to actually look at this dang on list again. It's definitely associated with Virginia Parish. I've seen it many times. All right, you guys. Need to get going. Sorry if I can't answer everything on here, because some of this is long. But we're going to be back with some more surnames. Hopefully I'll be able to have the South Carolina and Georgia one, or I have to do them together if it's enough names. If you guys have any more questions, you can email me at thetashashi@gmail.com if you need help or have questions. So please please share the video out, comment below. Give me more suggestions on other videos, because I'm trying to go in a different direction now and be having more variety on this channel. All right, so in the part of the language for goodbye, we say Ana. So Ana.